Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air change? Like someone decided, without even knowing you, that you didn't deserve to be taken seriously. Maybe they talked over you. Maybe they laughed when you spoke. Maybe they just dismissed you with that look. The one that says, "You don't matter." You felt it, didn't you? That heat rising in your chest, that sting behind your eyes. And in that moment, you questioned yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Should I have said more? Stop right there, because that's where most people lose their power. Not when someone disrespects them, but when they start believing that person has the right to define their worth. You see, disrespect isn't about you. It's a mirror held up to someone else's insecurity, someone else's fear, someone else's need to control what they can't understand. But here's the truth most people never heard: you train the world how to treat you. Every time you let something slide that violates your boundaries, every time you stay silent when someone crosses a line, you're teaching them the rules of engagement. And guess what? People learn fast. Today, we're not here to complain about disrespect. We're here to reclaim authority. Your authority. We're going to talk about how to walk into any situation, workplace, family, relationship, confrontation, and carry yourself with such quiet power that disrespect can't even find a place to land. Because power isn't volume, power is presence. It's the ability to look someone in the eye who's trying to undermine you and say, without words, "You don't get to do that here." By the end of this conversation, you're going to know exactly how to handle people who don't respect you, not with anger, not with revenge, but with strategy, with calm, with precision. So before we start, take a breath. Straighten your back. This is not just about dealing with others. It's about remembering who the hell you are. You ready? Let's get into it. Let's talk about what respect really means, because somewhere along the way, people got it all twisted. We were taught that respect is something others give to us, something we earn through our job titles, our achievements, our looks, or our ability to please people. But that's not respect. That's approval. And approval is fragile. It disappears the moment you stop giving people what they want. Real respect, the kind that lasts, begins and ends with you. See, most people think they want respect from others, but what they're actually craving is validation. They want someone to notice their worth so they can finally feel worthy. But that's like trying to fill an ocean with a teacup. You can't collect respect from the outside and expect it to fill what's empty inside. The world doesn't give you respect. It reflects the respect you already have for yourself. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Every time you laugh off an insult, every time you stay quiet when someone crosses a line, every time you put someone else's comfort above your own dignity, you're training them. You're saying, "It's okay. You can treat me like that." And once you've set that precedent, it's very hard to undo. That's why this first step is so powerful. Because once you redefine what respect really means, you stop waiting for permission to be treated right. Here's what most people don't understand: respect isn't given, it's perceived. People respect consistency. They respect clarity. They respect someone who knows who they are and doesn't flinch when challenged. When you walk into a room with calm confidence, you're already setting the tone. But when you shrink, over-explain, or apologize for existing, you hand over the controls. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are rarely the loudest in the room. They're the ones who don't need to prove anything. Think about it like this. Every time you allow someone to talk down to you and you stay silent because you don't want conflict, you're not being the bigger person. You're being agreeable at your own expense. Respect isn't about being nice, it's about being real. And sometimes being real means saying, "That's not acceptable," calmly, directly, no drama, just truth. Because the moment you stop protecting other people's feelings at the cost of your own self-respect, everything changes. Now, redefining respect doesn't mean you become cold or defensive. It means you know your worth so deeply that you no longer need to prove it to anyone. You don't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't chase after people who take you for granted. You don't explain your boundaries to someone who has already shown they don't care to honor them. You simply live in alignment with your values, and that alignment speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop waiting for someone to see your value before you act like you have it. You don't need someone to clap for you to know you did something well. You don't need someone's attention to feel seen, because you've already validated yourself. And that level of self-respect, it's magnetic. People can feel it. Let's get practical for a second. Imagine you're at work and someone constantly interrupts you during meetings. It happens again and again, and you start feeling smaller each time. Now, most people will either shrink away or explode. But a person who understands respect doesn't do either. They don't get emotional. They don't get passive. They simply pause, look that person in the eye and say, "I'd like to finish my point." Calm, direct, neutral. That's power. Because you're not reacting, you're asserting. You're showing that you respect yourself enough to stand your ground without needing to attack. Now here's the uncomfortable part when you start changing how you expect to be treated. People will resist. They'll call you difficult. They'll say you've changed. They'll test your boundaries, not because they hate you, but because you've shifted the dynamic. And they're used to the old version of you, the one who tolerated too much. But that's okay. Let them adjust. Your job is not to make people comfortable. Your job is to make yourself aligned. You might lose some people along the way, and that's fine. You'll lose the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. You'll lose the ones who preferred you quiet, agreeable, and small. But you'll gain something far more valuable, self-respect. And that's something no one can take from you. Here's the truth: respect has nothing to do with control. You can't make someone respect you. You can only make it clear what happens when they don't. That's where your power lies. Not in forcing others to change, but in controlling your response. When you operate from a place of calm authority, you stop reacting to disrespect like it's personal. You see it for what it is, a reflection of the other person's character, not yours. I want you to remember this line: respect is not demanded. It's demonstrated. The way you speak to yourself, the way you show up, the way you recover from setbacks, these are the quiet demonstrations of self-respect that build unshakable confidence. And confidence commands respect. So, ask yourself, how do I treat myself when no one's watching? Do I keep promises to myself? Do I talk kindly to myself when I make a mistake? Do I let fear dictate my boundaries? Because the way you treat yourself sets the tone for every relationship in your life. If you constantly abandon yourself to keep the peace, don't be surprised when others do the same. You want people to respect you. Start by respecting your own time. Respect your own goals. Respect your own energy. Stop apologizing for having standards. Stop downplaying your achievements to make others comfortable. Stop pretending you're okay when you're not. That's not humility. That's self-erasure. When you redefine respect as self-respect, everything changes. You stop chasing it and start embodying it. You stop needing it and start radiating it. And the people who are capable of meeting you at that level, they'll rise. The ones who can't, they'll fall away. That's the natural filter of self-respect. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't get angry. Don't get emotional. Just remember, this is a test, and you're showing the world how you expect to be treated. Stand tall, stay calm, and act from your values. Because when you respect yourself, you don't have to demand respect from others. It just happens naturally. That's what redefining respect really means. It's not about them. It's about you. How you walk, how you speak, how you show up, and how you refuse to shrink. It's knowing, deep down, that your worth is not negotiable. Most people think setting boundaries means pushing people away, creating distance, or building walls. But that's not what real boundaries are about. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They don't keep everyone out. They protect what's valuable inside. They allow the good in and keep the harmful out. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to set them. We were taught to be agreeable, polite, accommodating. We were told, don't make waves. Don't be rude. Be the bigger person. But at what cost? Because when you spend your life avoiding conflict, you start living in constant internal conflict. You trade your peace for other people's comfort. Here's the truth: boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are self-respect in action. They are a declaration of what you will and will not allow. They are your way of saying, this is who I am, this is what matters to me, and this is how I expect to be treated. When you don't set them, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own frustration, because people will only treat you the way you allow them to. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you have to be loud or aggressive. In fact, the most effective boundaries are delivered calmly and consistently. It's not about raising your voice. It's about raising your standards. Think about how a professional handles pressure. They don't yell, they don't argue, they don't beg to be respected. They stay composed. They state the facts. They hold their line. That's exactly how you need to handle people who cross your boundaries. Calm, clear, consistent. But let's be real, it's not easy. The moment you start enforcing boundaries, you will feel guilt, you'll feel resistance. That's normal. Guilt shows up because you've been conditioned to equate saying no with being mean. But no is not a rejection, it's protection. You have the right to protect your energy, your time, your peace, your goals. You're not obligated to overextend yourself for anyone who disrespects your limits. The first step is clarity. You can't enforce a boundary you haven't defined. Ask yourself, what drains me? What situations make me feel small, angry, or resentful? Those emotions are signals, warning lights telling you where a boundary is missing. If you constantly feel taken advantage of, it's not because everyone else is heartless. It's because you haven't made your limits clear. People can't respect boundaries that don't exist. Once you've identified your lines, the next step is communication. And here's the key. You must communicate your boundaries without apology. You don't need to over-explain, justify, or defend them. The more you explain, the weaker your message becomes. Boundaries should be simple, firm, and direct. For example, I can't stay late tonight. I'm not comfortable discussing that. That comment's not okay. That's it. No story, no emotion, no justification. Just truth delivered with calm authority. Now, some people won't like your boundaries. That's inevitable. People who benefit from you having none will always resist when you start setting them. They'll call you selfish, distant, or too sensitive. That's just their way of trying to guilt you back into submission. But don't let that shake you. Every time you enforce a boundary, you're retraining the people around you and retraining yourself to honor your worth. One of the most powerful tools in setting boundaries is silence. Silence is uncomfortable for people who are used to controlling conversations. When you stop explaining yourself and start letting your words stand on their own, you reclaim your power. If someone crosses a line and you calmly repeat your boundary without escalating, you send a clear message. I'm not playing this game. You don't have to win an argument. You just have to stand firm. There's a reason professionals, negotiators, and leaders use boundaries so effectively. They understand that emotion clouds authority. When you get emotional, you give the other person power over your reactions. But when you stay calm, you control the frame. You're teaching them through your demeanor. That disrespect doesn't move you. That's how you command respect without demanding it. Let's talk about the cost of not setting boundaries, because it's real. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you create resentment. Every time you bite your tongue to keep the peace, you erode trust with yourself. And over time, that internal dissonance turns into exhaustion, anxiety, and anger. You start feeling like everyone takes advantage of you, when really, you've been taking advantage of yourself. You've been sacrificing your own peace to earn approval that never comes. Boundaries are not just about what you say no to. They're also about what you say yes to. When you create space by saying no to what drains you, you make room for what nourishes you. You start attracting people who value you because you've shown them how to. That's how the world works. Your energy tells people what's acceptable. Confident energy says, I know my worth. Desperate energy says, please like me. Which one do you think earns respect? Setting boundaries like a professional also means understanding the difference between control and consequence. You can't control how people respond to your limits, but you can control your response. If someone keeps violating your boundaries after you've been clear, it's not time for another conversation. It's time for a consequence. That might mean distancing yourself, limiting communication, or walking away entirely. Because if there are no consequences, your boundaries are just suggestions. Here's a practical exercise. Think of one area in your life where you feel consistently drained. Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need something, a boss who keeps overloading you, or a family member who disrespects your time. Write down exactly what behavior crosses the line, then decide what you're going to do next time it happens. It could be as simple as saying, I can't help with that right now, or as firm as, I won't continue this conversation if it stays disrespectful. Then stick to it. The key isn't perfection, it's consistency. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. You'll second guess yourself. You'll replay conversations in your head. That's okay. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And soon, setting boundaries won't feel like confrontation. it'll feel like peace. When you start living this way, something incredible happens. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop explaining and start embodying. You move through life with a quiet, grounded confidence that says, I know who I am, and I decide how I'm treated. And people respond to that. Even those who once disrespected you will start adjusting their tone, their behavior, their energy, because you've changed yours. That's what setting boundaries like a professional looks like. It's not about fighting. It's about clarity. It's about standing tall in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about protecting your peace without apology. Because at the end of the day, your time, your energy, your emotional space, they are the most valuable currencies you have. Don't spend them on people who can't afford to respect you. Boundaries are not barriers, they're bridges. They connect you to a life where you're no longer surviving other people's demands, but thriving in your own authority. And once you master that, you'll never go back to people pleasing again. You'll realize that every no you give is really a yes to yourself. And that's the kind of respect no one can take away. Disrespectful people thrive on reaction. They feed off it. The moment you raise your voice, defend yourself too hard, or let your emotions take control, they've already won. Because that's the game they're playing, emotional chess. They make a move designed to throw you off balance, to make you doubt yourself, to provoke you into acting out of emotion instead of reason. And if you're not careful, you'll end up playing their game without even realizing it. The first rule of handling people who don't respect you is this: don't play. Don't give them what they want. Your energy. Emotional chess is all about control. The disrespectful person wants to control the narrative, control the room, control your reaction. They want to see if they can push your buttons, because when you react, you reveal your weak spots. You tell them exactly where to strike next time. That's why composure isn't just confidence, it's strategy. When you learn not to engage emotionally, you change the entire power dynamic. You stop being a player in their game and become the one who sets the pace. You make them react to you instead of the other way around. That's real power. Not loud, not flashy, quiet, controlled, intentional. You can feel it in the room when someone has mastered this. They don't flinch when provoked. They don't scramble to prove themselves. They just stand there, calm and centered, while everyone else burns energy trying to get a reaction. So how do you do this? It starts with awareness. You have to be able to recognize when someone's trying to bait you. Because make no mistake, people who disrespect you often do it intentionally. They want to see how far they can go. Maybe it's a coworker who makes subtle digs at you during meetings. Maybe it's a friend who uses sarcasm to disguise cruelty. Maybe it's a family member who loves pushing your buttons because they know your triggers. Every time you respond emotionally, snap back, defend yourself, over-explain, you're playing right into their hands. When you feel that familiar surge of anger or humiliation, pause. That pause is everything. It's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding intelligently. Take a breath, step back mentally. Ask yourself, what's their goal here? What do they want me to feel? Because once you identify the motive behind their behavior, you take away its power. You stop being the target and become the observer. And from that position, you can decide what the smartest move is. Often, that move is no move at all. One of the most powerful tactics you can use is neutrality. Stay calm, stay composed, stay emotionally flat. If someone says something rude or condescending, don't meet their tone with fire, meet it with ice. Respond with calm, factual statements. That's not accurate. I disagree. Or sometimes nothing at all. Silence is a weapon most people never learn to use. When you stop reacting, you force the other person to sit in the discomfort of their own behavior. And here's the fascinating thing: disrespectful people hate silence. They thrive on chaos. When they can't get a rise out of you, they start to lose interest. Now, some people mistake this approach for weakness, like staying calm means you're letting someone walk over you. That couldn't be further from the truth. It takes enormous strength to stay centered when someone is trying to provoke you. Emotional control is not passivity, it's precision. It means you're choosing not to waste energy on something that doesn't deserve it. Because not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is your composure. Let's imagine a situation. You're in a meeting and a colleague undermines you with a sarcastic comment in front of others. The instinct might be to fire back, to defend your credibility. But instead you pause. You meet their eyes and say calmly, I don't think that's appropriate. Then continue your point. No emotion, no escalation, just a boundary wrapped in composure. What happens? The room feels your authority. You haven't just protected your respect, you've elevated it, because everyone can see that you won't be baited. That's how professionals handle disrespect, with control, not chaos. Here's the psychological truth: when you stay calm, you activate the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. When you react emotionally, the amygdala takes over, the fight or flight center. In that state, you say things you don't mean, you make decisions you regret, and you lose clarity. But when you breathe, when you ground yourself, you stay in control of your choices. You see the situation for what it is, a tactic, not a truth. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Another key element is detachment. You have to emotionally detach from needing people to understand you or validate you. Disrespect feels personal, but most of the time it isn't. It's projection. People who lash out are usually dealing with their own insecurities. They're trying to make someone else feel small so they can feel big. Once you see that, it becomes easier to stay calm. You realize, this isn't about me, it's about them. That mindset frees you from taking the bait. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore every act of disrespect. It means you respond strategically, not emotionally. Sometimes the smartest move is to disengage entirely. Walk away. End the conversation. Leave the room. You don't owe anyone your attention if they can't treat you with basic respect. But when you do speak up, speak with calm authority. Low tone, steady voice, direct eye contact. Because power isn't about volume, it's about control. You'll also notice something else: the more emotionally grounded you are, the less drama you attract. People who thrive on conflict don't like being around calm, confident energy. It disarms them. They can't play their games with someone who refuses to play back. And over time, they either adjust their behavior or drift away. That's the natural filter of emotional strength. But here's the part most people overlook. You can't stay emotionally grounded if you're constantly running on empty. Emotional discipline comes from self-care, from rest, from having a life outside of the chaos. When you're exhausted or insecure, you're easy to provoke. When you're centered and confident, disrespect bounces off you like rain on glass. So take care of yourself, protect your energy, because emotional control starts long before the moment of confrontation. It's built in the quiet moments when you decide what kind of person you want to be. In the end, not engaging in emotional chess is about refusing to hand over your power. You stop letting other people pull the strings of your mood, your confidence, your peace. You start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. And that's where true authority comes from, not from dominating others, but from mastering yourself. So the next time someone tries to get under your skin, remember this: they're only powerful if you react. Your calm is your armor, your silence is your strategy, and your composure, that's your victory. Because when you stop playing emotional chess, you stop being the pawn. You become the one who chooses which game to play, and that's when you truly win. There's a big difference between demanding respect and earning it. Demanding respect comes from insecurity, earning it comes from strength. People who constantly shout, "You better respect me," are usually the ones who don't respect themselves. Real respect can't be forced. It's not something you can extract from people through fear, manipulation, or loudness. It's something that grows naturally from how you show up, how you carry yourself, how you treat others, and most importantly, how consistent you are when no one's watching. Respect is never about titles, money, or appearances. You can have all those things and still not be respected. People don't respect what you have. They respect who you are. They respect how you act under pressure, how you treat people who can do nothing for you, how you hold your ground when it would be easier to fold. Respect is about character, not charisma. And it's earned through action, not words. The truth is, people are always watching, not in a paranoid way, but in a human way. They're reading your tone, your body language, your choices. They notice how you treat the waiter, how you speak about others when they're not around, how you respond to being challenged. Every small decision is a data point that builds or destroys respect. You can't fake it, because while people might fear authority, they only respect authenticity. When you stop begging for respect, you start embodying it. And that shift is powerful. Because when you're begging for respect, you're coming from a place of lack. You're saying, "I need you to validate me so I can feel powerful." But when you earn it, you're saying, "I already know my worth." You can choose to recognize it or not. It doesn't change who I am. That kind of energy is magnetic. It's grounded. It's impossible to ignore. Let's talk about presence. The way you carry yourself communicates volumes before you even say a word. People who command respect walk differently. They move with intention. They don't rush. They don't fidget. They don't over-explain. Their posture says, I belong here. That's not arrogance. It's ownership. When you respect yourself, your energy fills the space, and people respond to that energy before they even consciously realize it. But earning respect isn't about pretending to be unshakable. It's about how you handle your imperfections. When you make a mistake, own it. When you don't know something, admit it. Vulnerability, when paired with integrity, earns more respect than perfection ever could. People don't respect the person who pretends to have it all together. They respect the one who stands tall even when things fall apart. Here's where a lot of people get it wrong. They think respect comes from being liked. It doesn't. You can be the kindest, most generous person in the world, and still, not everyone will like you. That's fine, because respect doesn't always come with affection. It comes with recognition. Even your critics can respect your discipline, your work ethic, your consistency. So stop chasing popularity. Popularity is temporary. Respect is permanent. When you're busy begging for respect, you become reactive. You let people's opinions dictate your behavior. You start performing for approval instead of acting from principle. And that's a dangerous place to live, because you'll never win. There will always be someone who misunderstands you, discredits you, or refuses to acknowledge your worth. You can't control that, but you can control what you give your energy to. You can control how you carry yourself in the face of it, and that's where your power lies. To earn respect, you have to be consistent. Consistency is the foundation of credibility. When people know what to expect from you, when your words match your actions, they start to trust you. And trust breeds respect. But inconsistency erodes it. If you preach confidence but constantly second-guess yourself, if you talk about honesty but cut corners when convenient, people notice. They may not call you out, but they'll quietly lose respect. Because deep down, we all sense authenticity. We know when someone's real. Another key to earning respect is competence. Be good at what you do. Know your craft. Keep improving. People respect excellence. You don't need to boast about your achievements. Just let your results speak for themselves. When you're prepared, when you deliver, when you bring value to every room you enter, people can't help but notice. You don't have to chase recognition. It follows naturally. But competence without humility becomes arrogance, and arrogance kills respect faster than anything. True professionals, true leaders, never need to remind you of their importance. Their calm confidence does the talking. They listen more than they speak. They give credit freely. They lift others up without feeling smaller themselves. That's the paradox of real strength. It doesn't need to dominate to be seen. Let's get something straight. Earning respect doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. You can be kind and firm at the same time. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. When someone crosses the line, address it directly and calmly. The way you handle disrespect determines how others will treat you going forward. Lose your cool and they'll see you as emotional. Stay silent and they'll see you as weak. But handle it with composure and authority, and you'll earn something deeper: admiration. Now, sometimes you'll give your best, you'll show up with integrity, and people still won't respect you. That's okay. Respect earned isn't about outcomes. It's about alignment. You're not responsible for how others perceive you. You're responsible for how you present yourself. Keep showing up with dignity even when it's unrecognized. That's what separates those who command respect from those who chase it. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who walk into a room and instantly elevate it. They don't demand attention. They don't chase validation. They don't talk about respect. They embody it. You can feel their steadiness, their quiet self-assurance. That's not something they learned overnight. It's the result of years of discipline, emotional control, and self-awareness. They've learned that real power doesn't come from being louder. It comes from being anchored. To reach that level, you have to practice self-discipline. Keep your word. Do what you say you'll do. Even when it's inconvenient, respect grows from reliability. People respect those who follow through. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be there. If you say you'll deliver, deliver. Every time you follow through, you're proving, to yourself and to others, that you're dependable. And dependability commands respect in every area of life. Lastly, earning respect means respecting others, even when they don't deserve it. Not because they've earned it, but because it reflects your character. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you treat them. Being respectful doesn't make you weak. It shows that you have self-control. It shows that your standards aren't conditional on someone else's behavior. That's emotional maturity, and it's incredibly rare, so stop begging for respect. Stop trying to convince people of your worth. Start earning it through consistency, authenticity, and self-respect. Speak less, do more. React less, respond better. Show up with calm confidence, and let your presence do the talking. Because when you embody respect, you won't need to demand it. It will follow you naturally, like a shadow that never leaves. And here's the truth that most people never realize. Respect isn't something others give to you. It's something they recognize in you. You don't earn it through force. You earn it through grace, through control, through the quiet discipline of living your values every single day. So carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to be validated. Walk with the kind of calm that can't be shaken. Because when you stop begging for respect and start earning it, the world has no choice but to notice. There comes a point in every person's life when staying becomes more painful than leaving. When explaining yourself again feels like self-betrayal. When giving more chances only empties you further. That's when you know it's time to walk away. Walking away isn't weakness. It's power. It's the moment you stop trying to convince people to value you and start choosing yourself instead. And yet, most people never do it. They stay in jobs that drain them, friendships that disrespect them, relationships that break them, because they're afraid of what will happen if they leave. But here's the truth. Nothing new can begin until you let go of what's been holding you hostage. Walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop sacrificing your peace for people who never cared enough to meet you halfway. It means you stop showing up to conversations that go in circles. Stop trying to fix people who have no interest in changing. Stop begging for respect from those who benefit from your silence. It's the act of reclaiming your time, your dignity, your freedom. And it's one of the hardest, most courageous things you'll ever do. The reason walking away feels so hard is because your mind confuses comfort with safety. Even when a situation is toxic, at least it's familiar. You know the rhythm of the chaos. You know what to expect. Stepping into the unknown feels terrifying. So you tell yourself stories. Maybe they'll change. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe if I'm just more patient. But deep down, you know. You know when something is finished. You know when someone has shown you who they are. You know when you've outgrown a space. The longer you ignore that truth, the heavier it becomes. Letting go requires trust. Trust that you'll be okay on the other side. Trust that you can build again. Trust that walking away isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of a better chapter. People who don't respect you will always make you feel like leaving is betrayal. But it's not. It's self-preservation. It's you saying, I refuse to participate in my own disrespect any longer. Because if you don't respect your own boundaries, no one else will. Here's something to understand. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Some people are lessons, not lifetimes. They were there to teach you about strength, clarity, and self-worth. You were meant to learn where your line is, and then honor it. Walking away isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. There's a difference between being forgiving and being foolish. Forgiveness heals you, but going back to the same disrespectful dynamic just because you don't want to be alone, that destroys you. The most dangerous place to be is somewhere you've already outgrown but are too afraid to leave. You start shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that no longer align with who you are. You stop speaking up. You stop dreaming bigger. You start believing that peace is too much to ask for. That's not living. It's existing. And no amount of pretending will make that emptiness go away. People who respect themselves know when to close the door. They understand that their energy is valuable and their peace is sacred. They don't chase explanations from those who already showed them indifference. They don't keep returning to the fire expecting not to get burned. They walk away, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because they finally understand that not every story deserves a second chapter. Walking away takes strength, but it also takes discipline. You'll be tempted to go back. You'll remember the good moments and convince yourself things might be different this time. You'll miss the familiar and call it love. That's when you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you missing them? Or are you missing the version of you that believed things could be better? There's a difference. And when you see it, you stop trying to rewrite the past and start building the future. Sometimes walking away is quiet. You don't announce it. You don't need to prove a point. You just stop engaging. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop investing energy in conversations that never go anywhere. You detach, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Because peace doesn't always come from resolution. Sometimes peace comes from distance. There's a power in silence that most people underestimate. You don't have to slam doors or make dramatic exits. Just leave, calmly, gracefully, firmly. The loudest statement you'll ever make is your absence from places that never appreciated your presence. When you walk away with dignity, you remind people what they lost, not through revenge, but through peace. And don't mistake solitude for loneliness. Being alone after walking away is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also the space where you rebuild. It's where you reconnect with yourself. It's where you realize how much of your energy was going to people who gave so little in return. You start rediscovering your confidence, your joy, your strength. That's the beauty of walking away. It brings you back home to yourself. The truth is, not everyone will understand your decision. Some will say you changed. Some will say you gave up too soon. Let them talk. People who thrive on control will always call your boundaries disrespect. But that's not your problem. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You only owe yourself the promise that you'll never again settle for less than what you deserve. Let's be clear, walking away doesn't mean you hate them. It means you love yourself enough to stop being hurt. It means you've learned that sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. You choose to move on, even without apologies, even without understanding. You stop waiting for the other person to make things right, and you make it right for yourself. That's power. That's growth. And it's not just about people. It's about environments too. Maybe it's a workplace that drains your energy, where your value isn't recognized. Maybe it's a circle of friends where gossip replaces support. Maybe it's a lifestyle that no longer aligns with who you want to be. Walking away from any of these isn't failure, it's evolution. You can't rise while staying stuck in what keeps you small. So how do you know when it's time? When the effort outweighs the peace. When the conversations start sounding like broken records. When your boundaries are treated like suggestions. When you feel more drained than inspired. When staying feels like self-betrayal. That's your cue. You don't need anyone else to validate that feeling. You just need the courage to act on it. And yes, it will hurt. Growth always does. But the pain of walking away is temporary. The pain of staying somewhere you no longer belong lasts forever. The moment you let go, you create space. Space for healing. Space for peace. Space for people who actually value what you bring. You give yourself the chance to start again, stronger and wiser. Walking away is not giving up. It's leveling up. It's choosing yourself, even when it's hard. It's realizing that your energy is not infinite, and that it deserves to be spent where it's appreciated. It's the ultimate form of self-respect, and when you make that choice, you stop begging for peace and start living in it. So if you're standing at that edge right now, unsure, afraid, torn, remember this: walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally learned your worth. It means you've decided that protecting your peace matters more than pleasing people who never cared about it. And once you take that step, once you close that door with conviction, something incredible happens. You find yourself again. You breathe differently. You move lighter. You become stronger. Because when you walk away from what doesn't respect you, you're not losing anything. You're making room for everything you truly deserve. Respect isn't something you chase. It's something you claim. It starts the moment you decide that your peace, your boundaries, and your energy are non-negotiable. You don't need to shout to prove your worth, and you don't need to shrink to keep the peace. You stand in your truth, calm and unshakable, knowing exactly who you are. You've learned that redefining respect begins within, that boundaries are how you teach people your value, that emotional control is your armor, not your weakness, that true respect is earned through consistency and integrity, never by begging for validation, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away with your head held high. Every time you honor your own standards, you tell the world, this is the level I operate on, and the world adjusts. People may resist at first. They may call you distant, arrogant, or difficult. Let them. Because the ones who truly understand strength, the ones who recognize self-respect when they see it, will rise to meet you there. So starting today, stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to listen. Stop lowering your volume when you're finally speaking your truth. Stop negotiating your worth for crumbs of validation. Lift your chin, steady your tone, and walk through life like someone who has nothing to prove but everything to protect. The truth is simple when you know your worth. You stop chasing people who don't. You stop settling for less than respect. You stop giving away your peace to prove you're good enough. You become grounded, untouchable, and free. And that's the message I want you to carry from this moment forward. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be respected. And that begins with you.